looks like okay. Looks like we have a full house here, and since my Chinese is not as good as your English, I will be talking in English today. I've been with Apache for about 17 years, more or less, and I first joined Apache when there was a project that I was working on, which I very much enjoyed, called Java Data Objects. Okay, anybody here, Java Data Objects? Okay, well, that was 17 years ago. So surprisingly, that project is still alive and well, and we still have volunteers running that part of the project. I became a member in 2007. So 2 years working, and then I became a member in 2007. And I'm currently serving as a director on the board and also serving as assistant secretary. Now, have any of you ever filed an ICLA? Okay, 3 of you. Okay, I know there's more than that. But anyway, there was a good chance that okay, better? Yeah. There's a good chance that I helped file your ICLA for you. So I've been doing that for several years. I still do it today. And if it weren't for internet troubles, I would be doing one right now. But here I am. Let's see if this works. Good. Okay, so it's really important to understand the foundation of this organization. We are a public charity. We're registered with the government. We have a corporate presence in, well, it's in Delaware, in the United States, where a lot of companies are. And our mission is to develop software for the public good. That is not for us, but for the public. And so it's very important that anything that we do has to be seen as contributing to the public good. So we're not going to be go hide off in a room somewhere. Everything is done in the open. And we distribute our software at no charge, that is $0. And it is free to use, modify, sublicense, and distribute. So this makes it different from many of the other software open source projects out there, because you have to be able to take an Apache piece of software, you have to be able to change it to whatever you want to do, and then distribute it to your customers, if you have customers, and you don't give Apache anything in return, and you can charge for the software that you provide for your customers, and you can relicense it under your own specific license terms. So that's really important, that we don't tell you what to do with the software. It would be very nice if you told us, after you developed something and you fixed a bug somewhere, it'd be nice if you told us what you had to fix. And that's where the first contribution to Apache is typically coming from, is people contributing ideas and fixes, bug fixes, back to the organization. So this is just a little mind travel through 1999 all the way through 2024. And you can see that we now have over 9,000 committers. This is not users. Users are probably in the millions, but 9,000 people who actually actively contribute their intellectual property to help Apache become better. And we've also grown in terms of the number of committees, that is, organizations around a specific project that govern the use of that project, not govern the usage, but more govern the development of that project for release to the public. And we now have 211. It changes every month. It goes up, it goes down. Mostly it goes up. As you can see, over the 25 years, we started out with 0, and we're now at 211. Plus, there are usually sub-projects in about 1/3 of those, so that the actual number of projects is almost 300. So projects have sub-projects. And this is the incubator. You'll notice that the incubator is relatively flat. That's because the process of becoming a new project in Apache involves going into the incubator and then hopefully coming out of the incubator as a top-level project. So you can see the growth should be fairly steady, and as of now, we have current podlings on the order of around 50, 60. So this is the way the organization grows projects, is through the incubator. So the community looks like this. I've left off some of the esoteric part, but users of Apache projects, they're the guys who say, I'm going to install this on my machine, I'm going to run it, I'm going to just run the software. And users contribute via bug reports or questions on the mailing list, etc. Committers, or contributors, are people who may be using the software, maybe not, but they are actively contributing to making the project better. And if you contribute enough, you'll be made a committer. A committer is someone with a commitment to Apache and a commitment to their project, and they're recognized with a special LDAP button that allows you to commit changes to the repository. Now, you can't just go and change anything you want. There are rules. Many, many rules, as you will find out. And then finally, there are members. Apache members are number in the hundreds. I think we have about 800 at this point. And that number doesn't grow a whole lot, because to become an Apache member, you need to demonstrate a commitment to the principles of Apache and demonstrate that you understand it's a large number of communities who have to work together. So we have to make sure that you can work with all those people on the various committees. So in order to understand how Apache can grow and be as successful as we have, it's useful to know what the governance structure is. And here I'm going to go from top down, but it's really not a top-down organization at all. It's more like the board of directors are here to help the projects succeed. But that said, there is a legal term for director, and the directors are responsible to the government, responsible to the members to do things according to the rules. Then we have PMCs, project management committees. Now, a PMC is a group of people, and PMCs have members. Members are individuals of that community, and they govern how the project is run. That is, that they figure out how the project will evolve over time. They make sure that all the code is tested before it's released. Now, we don't all test every piece of code, do we ever? No, we never test every piece of code. We test enough to convince ourselves that the software basically works. But the project direction is probably the most important part of the PMC's task, and that is to make sure that the project will evolve over time, get new people involved, get new customers, new people using that software over time. So the project direction is probably the most important part of the project management committee. Probably the second most important part is releasing software. Without releasing software, we shouldn't even be here. We wouldn't be here. We have to release the software. And that is that we have to go through a process of having a person compile all the code together and then decide through testing and voting when to release the software. And then there is it's more of an honorific, but it's a legal term, of the PMC chair, the project management committee chair, is the person who keeps the board informed as to what the project is doing, how well it's doing, whether it has enough committers to maintain the project, whether it has enough PMC members to actually release the software. So it's basically making sure that the board understands that the project is doing or is not doing well. Now, in addition to the governance, we have a large number of assistants, if you will. If you are familiar with how a company runs, we have several organizations in the company. Infrastructure actually runs the machines that allow for code to be managed, code to be built through a continuous testing process, or CI development. And they basically make sure that the email software works so that you can always get a hold of Apache members. No matter where in the globe they are, you send a message to a mailing list, and as if by magic, it appears in the inboxes of hundreds of thousands of people around the world. So that's a fairly big task, and that is one of the biggest budget items for real money that we have in the organization. And the infrastructure chief, the VP of infrastructure, is a volunteer, but the rest of the organization in infrastructure are actually paid employees. So there is that one bit of, they're not volunteers. They may have volunteered at one point, but they're no longer currently volunteers. They're working on behalf of the organization. Now, we also have a large number of other auxiliary process, events, trademarks, legal, fundraising, marketing, publicity, public affairs, hello Dirk, and security and privacy. We have separate functions within the organization. And of course, some of these functions require help from paid outside contractors. But the actual setting the direction, doing the work to guide what the foundation does, is the responsibility of these folks here who run those different organizations within the software organization. So, in short, what we do here is that projects, PMCs, project management committees, release software. And community development, which I guess you've seen a very good example of one of our chief community developers, they help make sure that people stay focused, stay organized, they bring in the community to assist in the growth and the understanding of the organization, the projects. Marketing and publicity is not to be understated. It is very important in terms of getting the message out to the world, what we do, how we do it, why it's important. And then events such as this one. There's a committee in charge of events that get the word out so that we can bring more people into the fold, into the organization. So each of these is considered a volunteer post, a volunteer aspect. The committer is a volunteer. Now, a committer may also work for a company, and that's good, because that is one way that companies can contribute to the success of Apache, is by having their engineers, their developers, their documentation people have actually work on the projects. And then PMC members help guide the direction. And again, these PMC members may work for a corporation. That corporation might have an interest in seeing certain aspects of the software change and grow over time. And that's perfectly fine. But when they're working on the project in Apache, they're volunteers at Apache, even though they may be engineers working for a corporation. And it's very important that people understand that there are hats in Apache. And you put on your developer hat when you're working on a project. You put on your PMC hat when you're voting for a release, for example. And the vote for the release should not be influenced by your particular company. It should be, is it in the public good, and does it make that project work better or be more visible, more understood, more distributed throughout the world? Okay, so volunteer hat is very important. The PMC chair, again, this is not a leadership position as much as it is a communication facilitator. So the board may have some questions, how is this project doing? And the PMC chair is responsible for answering to the board and saying, oh yes, we are seeing an increase in activity, or we're seeing a decrease in activity, we had some problems with a release, those kinds of things. The communication channel between the PMC chair and the board is very important. We also have Operations VP. The VP of Operations is the one person. If something goes wrong, that person is on the hook to fix it. And so it's a very demanding job. It's a 24/7 kind of job where if something goes wrong, you pick up the phone, you say, hey, we have a problem in Indonesia. There's some server issue going on there. Hopefully not, because most of our servers are actually distributed in the cloud across the known universe of infrastructure. And then finally, the board members are also volunteers. This particular aspect distinguishes us from other open source organizations in a pretty big way, because other organizations that you may have heard about, open source, they pay their directors, they pay their board members. And so there's a difference in terms of what these other organizations can do. Companies can buy a seat on the board, they can buy a seat or in a management position, and that's something that we just don't do. All the board members are volunteers from day one, and when they leave, we say, thank you very much, no retirement for you. Hopefully you've gotten your money somewhere else. So how do we keep on going? Technology comes and goes. You know, if you had said to me 20 years ago, big data, data lakes, and artificial intelligence, I would have said, what is all that? So in only 20 years, we've come from what is that to we're delivering it here today from Apache. People come, people have an interest in doing things, and they leave. And that's all fine. That's all fine and good. But there are enough people in the community to keep every project going. So also, when a project comes into Apache, often the developers, the original developers of that software stick around, and they get it through the incubator, they make a release, they do, and then either they get tired or they get a different job or something happens so they are no longer there. But they've left a community behind that will take that project forward and move it into the future. Now, you may have heard of the term BDFL, Benevolent Dictator for Life. Yeah? We have had a few of these in the organization over time. And often, if there's a single developer that has the idea of what something is and the energy to make it into a project and make it into a product and become successful in that product, they assume the title. And what that title means is that if you want to do anything in that project, you have to get that person's permission. And that's just not the way we do things here. There are no benevolent dictators for life at Apache. Or if we suspect that there is such a person, then we make sure that everybody knows that this is not supposed to be the way it works. So the community itself, the community of users, committers, PMC members, that's the group of people who drive the organization or drive the projects. So what do we do for everyone to feel welcome? We provide a vendor-neutral space, and again, this is a very difficult thing for some vendors to get over. If a vendor has maybe their employees are in the project management committee, they think they can sort of make things happen all by themselves. That's not the way it is supposed to be done. We should have multiple voices in the community, in the project management committees that set the direction and make things happen. There is no pay-to-play, and Apache, the organization, grew from home of the world's most popular web server, and I think it's still true today, some 70%, over half of the servers in the world, in the known internet universe, are still Apache servers. Now, they may be derived, they may have additional features. You may have to modify it, put it into a container to run in a service in the web, but it's still underneath all is the Apache web server driving the internet. We're kind of happy about that. And now we are also possibly the home of big data, home of big data lakes, the home of machine learning, the home of electric vehicles or AI, whatever you want to call that. And so we will evolve to meet the needs of the community at large. And then finally, as a volunteer contributor, you can help build the community, asking questions, answering questions on the mail list, contributing patches. All that is just being a contributor, helping make your project better than it was yesterday. As a volunteer committer, you have a responsibility to improve the code. You build the project deliverables. And then as a volunteer PMC member, you build the project roadmap and help recruit other folks into the team and make them feel welcome and assist them in their journey into Apache. And then as a volunteer member, you can help grow the organization, keep it on track. If members are no longer interested, they leave, somebody comes in and fills that gap. So volunteers drive this organization, and I hope that you've seen enough examples of what you can do as a volunteer to help yourself and help Apache grow. And with that, thank you very much for your attention.